I don't sell anything to anybody that they don't want. I'm like, well, all right, God, if you want me to do it, I want to hear exactly 3 stomps on the floor within the next 10 seconds. All I heard was, do.
Wow.
I was like,
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, StephenMotivate, back again with another episode of The Journey to Freedom. And we've got a special guest today. He is a prodigy with a pen stroke smoother than a Euro step, a 21-year-old phenom who turned a pandemic lockdown into an artistic breakout. This young king took a sketchbook and some prayer and walked into the biggest rooms in pop culture. We're talking about Comic-Con, 135,000 strong, Mega-Con in Orlando, where he left the show with pockets heavy, a big bankroll, and his dream, a graphic novel that fuses anime and baptizes it all in scripture and the armor of God, which I think is fantastic. The U.S. manga scene just cracked the $1 billion mark and is sprinting toward triple that by 2030. My guest is carving out a faith-filled lane right down the center. He fronts 250,000 saints across his socials. And he drops merch that sells out faster than Comic-Con passes. And today he launches his debut book, The Book of Jericho. It's a holy fire saga about spiritual warfare, family fracture, and the superpowers already wired into every believer. So pour yourself something good, lean in, and help me welcome to the show the artistic prince of Christian anime, Elijah Willams.
awesome. That was amazing. That was amazing. That was fire. I like that.
So, Elijah,
Yes, sir.
does that even feel like you?
It does not. None of those things on there feel like me at all. But you know what I mean. I receive it. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes you forget what what God does. So
Yeah.
it's good to hear. You know.
I can tell since you've walked in, you're very focused on God, very, centered, seemingly spiritually.
Thank you.
Where does that come from?
I think that comes from 100% my family, growing up in it, and then also experiences with God. You know, just a lot of up and downs in the greatest way possible. I've learned a lot of things in the tests that He's brought me through, and a lot of humility in those things.
Yeah,
I kind of realized that as much as myself as there is very little. You know, in comparison to what He's done. And
right.
Everything I do is in His name, in the fact that like I could do nothing on my own, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely comes from that understanding that like greater is He that is in me. You know, it's all Him.
Yeah.
I'm a vessel.
That's
like
awesome.
God, you know. Yeah.
That's awesome. When did that click for you?
I say it clicked at Arizona State under the hot sun. You know, it clicked in when I was living a life that I shouldn't be living. You know, doing things that I thought were amazing, that I thought were going to give me these experiences that didn't give me anything at all. And one particular experience in college, you know, not too much detail, but it brought me to my knees, you know, humility to Christ. And I was like, Lord, I don't know what you need me to do, but I'm willing to try to do it. You know? I got to do more than this. This isn't what you've made me for. And then from then on, I kind of just made that decision to seek it out, see what that looked like in whatever way. And parents helped me, my mom, especially grandma, praying for me, you know, consistently annoying me with the gospel, you know, telling me all about God. I'm like, I don't want to hear any of it. But it eventually, there was a moment where I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I didn't see me, you know, I didn't see any part of, and I've had that close relationship with God growing up. I remember talking to Him when I was young, 5, 6, like, you know, kind of just being able to hear Him. Feeling guilty about things when no one else was around. I tell Him myself, you know, that type of thing.
Right.
And I lost that when I got to high school. And so it kind of when I looked in the mirror and I was like, I'm not where I need to be at. And I felt His presence for the first time, bust out in tears and just was like, all right, God, I don't know what it looks like, but we're going to figure it out together, you know?
So like we was talking about off camera, I love the origin. I love the fact that you've connected back with God and, you know, so what's your piece of advice for people that grew up in church, grew up around people that's, you know, into Christ, into the Bible, but you're like, I want to try something different when I go to school. What's your advice for them?
I'd say, like me, are you saying like in a way of like finding that path? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like,
yeah, just like when most people go to college, and if they've, I don't know if you call it sheltered, but if you want to, you know, you want to get out there and, you know, it's your first time really being grown and making your own decisions. But you just recently went through that.
Yeah.
What's your advice for them to, I don't know, not lose it or to be able to come out of that and still be able to be successful?
Yeah, I like that. No, I would definitely say that I feel like what you're missing, what you feel like you're missing, in the back of your mind, you know you're not. You know what I mean? There's always like this play, and that's what kind of the book is about, is like that spirit, that flesh, you know?
Yeah.
Even when you're not really in Christ, everyone has that. Like I ask a lot of people questions. Like if I'm talking to anybody, I just spew questions at them, and eventually everyone reveals themselves, right? And usually people know, right? Like you ask anybody who's Christian or not, they all acknowledge some type of relationship with religion, some type of God, some type of authority that they bow down to.
Right.
And they just kind of tune that out based off their own flesh, their own desires. And so I would say that advice would definitely be not ignoring your conscience. You know what I mean? We do that so often. I've been reading a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It's by John Mark Comer.
Say it one more time.
The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Okay, It's by who?
John Mark Comer.
Okay.
And he makes a lot of Christian books on like, just that type of stuff. But one thing I'll say from the book is that they said that hurry is the murder of spiritual life, right? So it's where people decide to move on their own because they feel like, oh, I got to be here, that they end up, their soul doesn't catch up to their body. So they're moving without actually, you know what I mean? And so it's killing your soul slowly but surely. And so I would say for people to like really sit down and be okay with whatever you have to face in that understanding that I may not be where I need to be at,
Yeah.
Because everyone always wants better. Like you ask any person who's living that bad lifestyle, they know it's not what they look for. I had many friends like that who are like, living a certain way. And they're like, yeah, nah, like they're not happy. You wake up in the morning, they're not happy. They go to sleep, they're not happy. They're doing the ecstasy type of activities, and they're happy. It always goes away. So that advice is just to really like assess. Don't be afraid of that assessment. Like to really face that darkness in a real way.
Right. So that's good. So it's like the fact that you're constantly going after a drink, a drug, a party, something. You're running away from yourself in a sense. Yeah. And if you just sit with yourself, and even if you're a business person and you just running from meeting to meeting, job to job, opportunity to opportunity, like, have you really sat with yourself and heard from God or heard from that voice that is meant to lead us?
Yes, 100%.
So listen to your conscience. That's good. Yeah. Tell us about the pandemic. So you learned a lot of your skills in the pandemic?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So what did that look like for you?
So that looked like for me, I played basketball, and that was at the time sophomore year. I'm at least like I wanted to go NBA by sophomore year. I switched schools, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to NBA. I was like, let's be real, Yeah. But I'm still like I'll at least go D1. Like I'm gonna go somewhere,
Yeah.
But during pandemic, my mom actually had my little brother Daryl, right? So they were very, I would say, afraid that like something could happen if I were to leave the house. I'd come bring it back. So they had a very strong, firm stance on you can't go nowhere. They wouldn't let me go to the gym, like the apartment gym complex, like down the street.
Oh, because they were super nervous. Because your brother was an infant.
Yep, infant. Okay. So they didn't want nothing to happen to him, and so I had to stay in the house constantly, all the time, to the point where I was like, okay, that's fine. Like I need to find something to do. So that summer, I actually went to, before the pandemic, like in between, like when it was happening and stuff, I went to New York to stay with my dad for a little bit. And it was the most alone I've ever felt because my dad's at work. My brother, he was on his own situation, who I kind of went for. He was kind of doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And so I started watching the anime Naruto. Actually, that was the first anime I've ever watched. Like it was like the first one that I've ever, and I'm on the couch. Mind you, my dad is the type of person to be like, you come to work with me.
Yeah.
But for this summer, it's like, it's weird. It's how God works, It's like, he was like, nah, stay home. Like, he just got glad I was there,
Yeah.
And so I'm on the couch every day from like 7, 8 a.m. to 12 at night watching Naruto.
Yeah.
It's 700 episodes. So it's like, I'm just like this.
700 episodes?
700 episodes, yeah.
And once you get into it, you probably want to see the next one.
Into it. And I've never seen anime. I've always loved Marvel, Avengers, those type of powers, comics.
Right.
It's always been my thing, Miles Morales. But when I started watching that, I was like, oh, this is, what I mean? So I'm on the couch with the dogs just like this all day.
Yeah.
To the point where when I went home, serious amounts of, I definitely would say that was the first time I ever felt an inkling of depression. Like where I was like, okay, I'm not, you know, I'm feeling like I feel sad. I feel alone. I was crying every night to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not like me. I've always been the energizer, like the person, you know, leading the party type of thing.
Yeah.
So I ended up going home in quarantine to my mom and my stepdad, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna need you to stay in the room by yourself like the first 2 weeks. You can't even come out. And so I was like, oh, it's just gonna get worse. Like I'm gonna be, but in that I started to draw. I was like, okay, I love Naruto. I've always loved graphic design. I've made posters and, you know, all these things, YouTube banners. And so I was like, okay, let me see if I can make something with Naruto, you know, involved. And so I wish I brought him, but it's like old pictures of me dressed up as Naruto characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I would just draw. Like I was like, okay, this is cool. So I bought my first drawing tablet. It's like a little one with no screen. It's just like you have to look at the computer, and it's old school type of. But I'm drawing on that, and I'm
Where'd
like,
you get the money from to do it?
I got my mom.
Yeah,
she
supported it. Once you let her know that like this is I'm interested in this.
Yes, 100. My mom is definitely one of my biggest supporters in all that.
That's awesome.
And I'm sure we'll get to it down the line with another little story about my mom. But so I got the little drawing tablet. It was like $60. So if you're trying to draw, start slow, see if you like it, you know what I mean? But I got the little tablet, started drawing and stuff like that, and then as quarantine progressed, I started using pen and paper. Then I got a bigger drawing tablet, and that one was funded by my family. So my family kind of all put in a little pot for me to get this drawing tablet, like $200 some. Then I started working for an art mentor of mine. And he started showing me how to draw and stuff like that. And so that was kind of like the progression of.
So how did you find the mentor?
On Instagram. So it's funny enough. I'm scrolling on Instagram, and it was an advertisement that popped up of Itachi, a character from Naruto.
Yeah.
And I was like, who drew that? Like it was a picture that he drew, and I was like, who drew that? And so I click on the thing. He has Patreon classes, and so I signed up for Patreon. Yeah. I'm like, Mom, I'm gonna need $25 a month. I don't know how I'm gonna need something. You know what I mean? Yeah. And she was like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, let's do it. So she got me in a little class, and I started. He was giving me. It was like a one-on-one type of thing, multiple students, but he would give you your own personalized. Like he would have you draw something, see where you're at, and like, okay, you need to work on this, and this. Yeah. And so he would take me through the stages of learning how to draw and stuff like that until, I was like, okay, this is something. When you get good at it, you love it. You know? Yeah. So I was like, this is, and with the mentor, you go. I mean, I'm sure you know that when you with a mentor, you go. So 7 years takes one, you know, and so it was like what I see it a lot in artists. They don't want to learn from anybody. And so they kind of stay where they're at. Right. But when I learned from him, that 1 year was like 7. Wow. It's like, he's like, do this, skip that, do this. You know, that's
so, and it accelerated your path. Mentorship typically does that, especially when you really tie into it. Because you can have a mentor, you can say somebody is your mentor, but if you don't really doing what they instructing you,
it's not going to help.
It's not going to help. You're not going to get the acceleration that you need.
Yeah.
So tell us how you end up taking this. You know, because if people still don't know what we're talking about, because I never was an anime person. Okay, but my roommate in college has been. So like Dragon Ball Z, is that like the most famous one?
I say that's top one. Yeah,
that's top one.
That's up there.
So how did you take that sort of Dragon Ball Z type of framework and then apply it to biblical things?
Yeah. So it leads up to the same thing. That mentor, I ended up staying with him. So when I went to Arizona State is when I gave my life to Christ, right? Wow. And so when I got there, I was living that lifestyle, and I was like, this ain't me. So same exact time frame, I couldn't afford to go to my next tuition, like my next semester.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's how God works. You know, now, at the time I'm like, this is whack, but I'm like, it's funny that as soon as I give my life to Christ, things start hitting the fan, Right. But I'm like, obviously I'm fresh. I'm like, I trust you, like, whatever it is. And my mom, she was like, do you think that your art mentor would that be a help for him if you were like to be there, pack his orders and stuff like that? And so I kind of hit him up, and I was like, hey, is this like, if I worked for you, because I was proficient in marketing and making videos. I like TikTok with 100,000 followers before drawing or anything.
Really?
So I've always done like production, video, graphics, stuff like that. So I think I could offer you a lot. Packing, things you don't want to do, let me learn from you as I'm living with you. Right. And so he was like, let me run it by my wife, and and he was like, yeah, let's do it. Right. So I end up,
that is crazy.
Oh God, man, it was an amazing situation.
So mom is okay with, because y'all had become close over like, did she know you the mentor?
So funny
Or
enough,
not really?
my stepdad was not a fan
Yeah.
because this dude I met online, it just
Right.
sounds weird. But
Sounds weird.
And also, I'm in Georgia, so this is all the way in Arizona.
Yeah.
My mom was like, "Do it."
Really?
And then because I was also when I was at school, I went to that school because of him. So I went to Arizona State with the mindset of I can do like something. Like
Yeah.
I literally went all the way across the state to be near this mentor.
Yeah.
And I started packing his orders when I was in school, not in Christ.
Gotcha.
And then I came out the second semester like, oh, my whole life has changed now. Like my brain was just like, oh, God is real, you know? And so that's when I was like, hey, would it help if I packed your orders? And that's when I went and lived with him. My mom was like, yeah, do it. And I paid rent and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you was already close. It was like that. It was either that or like
Stay at the crib.
stay at the crib
Stay
or
at the
like
crib.
go move back home, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
It was either so it was a way to like stay where you're at. And
Yep.
so during that time, did you feel like your whole world was falling apart?
I would say I was pretty optimistic because college never felt like the right path for me. Especially when it came to art, because I've always been that creative, you know. And
Was it too slow for you? Or just they didn't have any resources?
I'll say it like this. For my major, which was art, I took the best like thing closest to me, and I was designing or I was coding video games my first semester.
Yeah.
So I'm paying $15,000 to code a video game, and I'm like, all right, like I didn't even learn anything, but I'm about to have to pay somebody $15,000.
Oh.
And so I'm like, it wasn't adding up. The most I've learned was over the last year with this mentor online. So I'm like, you know, which one should I do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I'm gonna go with the mentor route, you know,
It's
instead of trying to
interesting.
stress. Yeah.
So it's almost like what you would see back in the day, like apprenticeship before. I think this is like when I say back in the day, I'm talking like 1600s,
Yeah.
1500s. Because at that time, people had to be super wealthy to really have college or anything like that. So if you were lucky, you'd get some type of apprenticeship and you'd kind of work, you know, in the field that you want to be in instead of basically going to a 4-year degree. And it's an interesting thought because that is kind of like it's now the template, but it wasn't that way, you know, hundreds of years ago. It was like you really got to get into your field versus let me test out 1,000 things and see what I want.
Right.
It's almost like a wealthy thing. Like, oh, you're so wealthy, just go learn a bunch of different stuff and choose which one interests you the most.
Right.
But in reality, it sounds like, at least in your case, that apprenticeship really accelerated you, and it just reminds me of something of old. So did he have a relationship with God?
So this is a very interesting. I'll do a quick run by this situation. But it's funny because he had I would say, an understanding of God, and I think in his mind he was like, "Oh yeah, this is what I believe." But the deeper I got, and then not in the way of comparison, but the deeper that you get into the Word of God, fruit show. You know, you just kind of start to see like, oh, so this okay. And I remember when I got there, he would try to, because I would draw certain projects for him, right? So he would have me, because I got to a point where my art looked like his.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted. He wanted me to literally be like, he said it in the car to me one time, like, when I die, I want you, like, if no one else knows, Dominic Glover, which is his name, his name continues on, right? And when I was a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, so amazing, you know? I'm like, this is great. I was only 17 years old. But I'm in his house, and he's like, yeah, I want you, like, help me with this project, help me with this project. And so I'm drawing these things, and then he starts, like, there's, like, certain project, like, girl bends over a car, and I'm like, I'm like, I can't really help you with that.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. And so the more I started to see that, I'm like, but we following God. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how we drawing this? This is, like, not good for people like me who's coming out of lust and stuff like that. I'm trying to stop lusting. And I'm, like, now promoting it. And so I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. And so we kind of had this little bit of tension in our relationship because there were certain things that he kind of expected that I would do, never discussed before I moved in, but still, like, in his brain, he was like, oh, we're going to do this. And then I didn't. And so we kind of had this, when you come to Christ, like, you know, like I said, your whole world is, like, everything I was right is now, like, what is this, you know? And I start having these real life experiences with God, like, where I'm, like, really, like, seeing deliverance, and I'm seeing, like, God move in my room, and I'm hearing his voice, and I'm like, this is, like, everything I thought was, like, this thing in a book is, like, actually happening to me.
Wow.
And so I'm in my bed one time, and I won't get, all the way into it just for the viewers. I don't know who's watching, but it was a spiritual experience that I I don't do drugs, I don't smoke, don't drink. That's never been my thing. And so I'm completely sober minded as I'm witnessing this like amazing spiritual experience.
Wow.
That really it changed my life.
Right.
And I went and told my friends about everything, but I ended up telling my mentor about it. And so this is the connection here. I went and told my mentor about this thing, and he was like, he started looking up like almost psychiatric, like, yeah, man, you got to like go to like this little cult or this club over here and like figure out where that came from,
Right.
And I'm like, I know it was real. You know what I mean? And I know this is biblical as well. What I just experienced, like deliverance, if y'all know, you know.
Yeah.
This is real, like everything that happened.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, man, you might be a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, And so I remember I was at his house and anointing oil. Yeah, so y'all know blessing oil and all that. And so I'm like real keen to like, the spiritual part of it now, right? And so I'm like putting crosses on everything. Yeah. This is not my house. So I don't take any lesson from this part. But I'm over here like he has glass paintings of his art with like Tom Holland, for example. He drew a picture of Spider-Man and then Tom Holland was signed and was holding his art. So he has this whole hallway of like celebrities. Yeah. And so they're gone one day and I'm like praying over the house. I'm like, oh, Lord, in the name of Jesus, doing all these things. And I started putting blessing on exactly. I'm like, because I forgot to mention at this point, I'm not drawing anime anymore because I'm like, it's demonic. Oh. So at this point is when I was hitting that like, dang, all these characters have demons in them. Like Naruto, his main power is a nine-tailed fox spirit that gives him ability and all these things. I'm seeing this in every anime I'm watching. I'm like, dang. And so I'm seeing all this stuff on the walls and I'm like, in the name of Jesus, putting crosses down the whole thing, right? And so I remember they came home from after I did that and they were like, hey, Elijah, did you put like, there's a bunch of crosses on these oil crosses on glass. And he's like, did you do this? I was like, no. I was like, Lord was like, if you're going to do it, you can't lie about it. I was like, all right.
Nope, didn't do it.
I was like, yeah, I did that. And he was like, well, they're not coming out. And I was like, ooh, they weren't coming out the thing. So, mind you, his wife doesn't know me very well. So I'm at their house and his wife barely knows who I am. She just knows I'm like this kid that, he mentored. And he's like, we have to tell her. Like, he's scared, because he's like this random kid, But so from that, we definitely had a serious conversation. We had a serious conversation that night. And that's when I told him about the whole spiritual experience. When he was like, oh, you cuckoo for hobos. So I ended up telling him a gentle rebuke was basically, well, as much as like, yeah, it may sound crazy, but I said, you're a Christian as well. Like you have to, there's certain things that you have a responsibility of doing with your talent, with your gift. Like you have to serve these people. And I'm very radical about it at this point. Like, you have to, and I definitely not the best way. I didn't do it gently. I definitely did it, kind of more like, yo, you got to do this,
Right. We Christians, we got to do it like this.
Right. We got work to do. You know what I mean? And so he took it as like, obviously, as I think anyone would. He was like, who are you kind of talking to? Like, it's crazy. Like, you're in my house. I let you over here. Yeah. I'm like, doing stuff for you and like you coming for me. Yeah. And I remember like this dude who, I barely knew, but to a degree, he was almost in tears. Like he was about to like, I'm like, oh dang, that was not the effect that I was, looking for. Yeah. He was like, you come to my house and you kind of like, and I'm like, dang, like that's still on me, Yeah. And so that was when we kind of had that like, and even the conversation about the Christian manga, because I got the idea then. The idea was all the way back then. But I was like, I'm swearing off anything anime. And I told God that I would. I was like, God, if it's anime, not drawing it until I feel as though you're telling me to. Right. Because I misread scripture. And so we can get into that later. But that was the kind of tear in our relationship when it came to that. We kind of healed from a little bit. Gave each other some hugs. Like, man, I didn't mean it like that. And he was like, same thing. And we started having more talks about God and Christ and in art and stuff like that. He didn't really change from that. And we've had some recent fallings out in like 3 months ago, so very recent. But as far as the book goes, that's when I was like, okay, this is important. That's when I started to do it. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I mean, you think about, Christian folk may know the zeal for Christ, being very zealous, and then sometimes it can turn into things where, it is a thin line. Yeah. But it's also very common. You get into something new and you're going full fledged for it. You want to dot every I, cross every T. Yep. And so obviously things can happen where other people get shooken up, sometimes for good reason. Sometimes, maybe things that weren't meant to be shaken got shaken as
100%.
well. But so I totally understand where you're coming from, just having grown up in church myself and all of that. But what I wanted to ask you then, so the guy is super important to you, the mentor. He doesn't necessarily lead you to Christ. You get led to Christ in Arizona, and you're so compelled at this point. You're now basically leading others or trying to help other disciple grow in their faith, grow in their display of it. So what happens next? You leave the house?
So yeah, at that point, I then decided that I was gonna move back with my mom in Georgia. Okay, I was just like, it just wasn't. I had to. It
was a big falling out. Yeah.
And
was his stuff destroyed? Did he?
Oh no, we fixed it.
It got fixed. Okay.
And I didn't move because of him. We still continued. He still wanted me to work for him and stuff like that. We definitely made up on that end. And he kind of realized some of the stuff too. But it was more my friends as well. I love my friends, but we were there, and like, even if I'm not doing nothing with girls and all that, they're bringing girls home. Right. And, they're like, oh, yeah, it's my boy Elijah, and I'm cool off all that. And that's when they want to, that's when they really want you. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's just more I don't even need, they smoked every day and all that. And I'm like, this is not a good environment. Right. And I was just like, all right, God, like, I'm like, where you want me at, I
love that because I always say you rarely see people grow more than their environment.
100%.
Right. Your environment will either grow you or shrink you. 1,000. And if you in the bad environment and you trying to do something, that's a big step that you understood that and was like, let me go. Okay.
Somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah. And so, from that, I was like, so are we still able to work together? Because I was doing his videos at the time. I got his account from 0 on TikTok to like 200,000. We had hit millions of views on product videos and stuff I was telling you about Iconic and stuff like that. Yeah, we were following those kind of principles and stuff. We were doing videos because he makes regular anime of Dragon Ball, Naruto, and so I was doing his promotions and stuff. Yeah, and we kind of had deals on like how I would get compensated and stuff like that. So eventually, when I decided to move back to Georgia with my mom, I was like, hey, do you think that we can still? And he was like, yeah, if you can uphold your end, I'll uphold my end, right? Right. So I get to Georgia and I'm still like, all right, let's do it. Like, let's hit it. Mm-hmm. And this is where I think the turning point happened when it came to this book in general, which was I was waiting for him to send me stuff, right? But then I saw that he was posting videos that I didn't edit. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't do that, right? Right. But because I kind of gave the formula already, I was no longer valuable at that point. I gave this is what, it grabs people's attention. This is what so he got professional editors at that point. It's like, well, I'm not an editor. I just have the ideas, Right. And so he's like, let me get someone that can really, and he kind of gave me like this backhand firing. Like he never fired me. Like he never was like, yeah, we're gonna let you go. He was just like,
your work got spread out amongst a different set of people. It's like when your playing time goes down.
Yeah, exactly.
On the court, it's like you still on the team, but you're not starting today. Right. It's like, what? I always start.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I got traded or something. Yeah. I'm like, I'm about to get traded for sure.
You're about to get traded. Yeah, this is crazy.
And so
So wait, before you go and tell us, because I've totally forgot about this. So you was already doing big numbers on TikTok, on IG, on all this stuff. Yeah. Okay, not only this guy, everybody wants to know how to do that.
Yes. Yeah, yes.
What can you share for the type of reels, the type of shorts, whatever? Yeah. What's the formula to growing big? And how many followers do you have?
Right now on TikTok, 17.5K. And I've had other accounts in total, probably like 300 that I've deleted because they weren't for the Lord. But okay. But yeah, I'd say and then Instagram like 5K. Yeah.
But you've grown. You've seen other accounts that weren't necessarily representing what you want to represent. 100%. Get up to 300 combined.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe I'd say more than that. Probably I'd say up to 600,000.
Wow.
Around that number. Yeah.
So what have you learned in that in terms of how to grow social media followings?
I would say that. Number one, I've been learning a lot from Myron Golden. I know a lot of viewers probably know who he is. But,
yeah, we love Myron.
Yeah, he's great. But giving people, and my uncles, I talked to my uncle about this stuff too, but at the time, I definitely think it changed from when I was doing other things to
because it changes.
Now. It changes.
What works 7 months ago is different. Yeah.
Before you could just put a poster in front of somebody's face and they're like, I want to buy. Right. Now they want a story. Now they want, why am I buying this poster? You know,
Right.
because now there's AI. Right.
Yeah.
So at the time there was like, you can't make a picture in an instant. So when we were selling posters, it was like, oh, I've never seen Goku look like this before. I've never seen Naruto look like this before. And so people are like, click, 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 to the point where we would have millions of views. So we'd wake up to the website down, because we had 300 plus orders that we had to pack.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And so I would say the tips, the advice is, one, study the algorithm in your niche, right? So every niche is different. There's people that study, if you're doing film, or, you know, you're trying to make movies, or you're trying, whatever it is. If you're just doing like yourself and there's videos, lifting, right? Lifting's huge right now. Follow that niche. Whatever type of videos the best creators are making, see that. Don't literally take, you know, exactly what they're doing. But
word for
take
word.
that, right? Take another one, and that's how you come up with the style that no one's ever seen. And so you make and you mend those. And so for anime, I would study a lot of creators that either created a manga already, people who are just storytellers in general, and people who are just followers of Christ. What do they talk about? What parts of my life can I give to people? And I'd say that now people don't want to buy the product. They don't want to buy. They want to buy the person, right? That's why I think Myron Gold is as where he is. People invest in him because what he says is true,
right?
And he shows you through his action,
right?
Your life is the best example, you know. And so I'm now finding out that the more that I give me, like, I'll give you a quick example. I've been posting videos, and we'll get into this later, but I've been posting videos about my book, and like when it first released, I'm like, oh, book's out, you know, that type of thing. And people are like, yeah, I mean, the views are down. Why? Because they don't want to be told what to buy, right? And I had money breath, right? I'm like, oh, like, you know, buy this.
Money breath.
I'm like, buy this, you know? And so they're like, ugh, like, you know what I mean? They're grossed out, exactly. And so eventually, I had to talk to my uncle, and, you know, watching Myron Golden's videos, and he's like, I don't sell anything to anybody that they don't want, right? So you kind of change your mindset of, number one, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for money? And I had to come to a grip and say, no, I'm not. I didn't start this for money. My whole point is, if I did this for free for the rest of my life, I'm content, because I'm doing it for God.
Yeah.
And I lost that when I started actually seeing revenue come in. And
right.
I'm like, oh, I got bills to pay. You know, this helps my bills. I can work less here. I can, you know. And so when that started to happen, I was like, okay, let me reassess. I had to ask, you know, God, like, why? You know, assessing that why. Understanding your why for any video you make, I think will get you, you know, but God was like, you did this for me. Yeah. I'm not in that book, right? Yeah. I'm a part of that book, but that is not me. Right. And I had to kind of okay, I see. Help people again. And literally, I think it's the last 2 weeks, I just posted videos about the characters. Didn't say buy anything. All I said was, this is Jericho. He walks like this. He's from this place. This is Sora. I just started introducing characters, sales, you know, and it's just from people want to be invested. They want to know what other people don't know. So give them that information. Give them that
background, that true, authentic thing that we were talking about earlier. Stop selling and just tell them the creative story that you come up with, the characters. That's really good.
Authenticity, because AI,
Before we go into the book, tell us some of the tools you're using. So you go from sketchbook to, you know, hardware to software to website sales to what type of tools are in your toolkit along your journey?
Yeah, so I would say that for artists, sketchbooks, as much as digital art is very popular and AI art is use sketchbook. Sketchbook is it's natural.
Is that a brand of a book, or
no,
is
just
it
literally
any sketchbook?
Pencil, and I don't care if it's notebook paper.
Yeah,
pencil to paper is necessary. Then
why do you think that's so necessary?
I think it's necessary because it is like with digital, you can crop something, drag it here, move it here, expand it here. If you make a mistake, easy erase, easy move, maneuver. Like if I mess up on a head, like if I'm drawing a picture behind you, I can just twist his head on the computer. It's easy. Yeah. But when you're on paper, you can't do none of that. You gotta either redraw it, do as many times as it takes to, you know. So it's like lifting real weight. You know what I mean? It's like that's what it's like. Yeah. And so pencil and paper gets you that mind. I forget, hand-eye coordination kind of. Yeah. That like real life. I'm touching this and this is moving this way.
And you think that it gives you. It brings the character to life more?
Oh, 100%.
It makes it more real?
Yes. It's so much more natural. It's so much more like free. And because you realize there's more mistakes, you're okay with it. And so you create better art. But when on digital, you think you're trying to make every line, because you can undo, draw it again, undo, draw it again. But with paper, it's like you just gotta get it.
How we gonna make this work?
How we gonna make this work?
And
exactly.
we're imperfect people.
Yeah,
so it becomes more real versus this artificial. Artificial. I like that.
Yeah.
There's something there. Like we in all aspects of life and business, we keep trying to make it so perfect that we're actually ruining it.
Yes.
Where if we just do it naturally, it's more real.
100%.
It's more life in that.
We as human beings are drawn to imperfection in every part of us.
Yeah.
We're always drawn to usually the worst parts of things. Like people want to buy the imperfect parts of me.
Yeah.
If I told you a sob story, that's what's going to make you buy. It's not me telling you I have $1 million in my bank account. Like no one wants to buy that.
Yeah.
They want to buy, oh shoot, like dang, like you lost this. This was a tragedy in your life. And so when it comes to paper and pencil and all these things, imperfection is what makes us see real. You know, that's like where we're like.
And that's how we connect with them, because we know we've been through stuff as well.
Exactly, 100%.
That's dope. I got this written down. Jericho's powers are God given, and we'll get fully into the book. How did you balance the? I'm trying to say this word right. Shonen level.
Yeah.
Hype.
I like that. Yeah.
With the theological accuracy.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
So that was, I love that. That's an awesome question. I definitely had to do a lot of prayer with that one. Took a lot of years, because I've been, like I said, concepting the Book of Jericho for 4 years.
4 years?
4 years. I've been concepting.
When did you first
thing.
draw the first character?
First Jericho was in my college dorm room after I gave my life to Christ, like a few days after.
A few days after.
A few days after, I was like, I don't know what this dude looks like, but we're gonna figure it out. And I still have those sketches, funny enough. But I had the first, I just kind of started like, what does this dude look like? And you obviously started to kind of draw yourself, you know.
Right,
that's what I was really saying. But yeah, it was in that room that I was like, okay, this is how Jericho's work. And so I would pray, and I'm like, all right, God, like I couldn't come up with his ability I could come up with everything else. His ability was the one thing that I'm like, what do I do? Like all the way up until I'd say I was in the middle of this book.
Yeah.
Like I was in the middle of being done when I was like, all right, like, I got it. Like,
you got the ability.
I got it.
So so jumping back to what you said earlier about a lot of characters basically have this, if not directly, indirectly, demonic sort of influence about ability and power. So what is that like the thing, is the ability of a character? Because I'm not into anime. I don't know anything about it. So, is that the thing that makes people most interested in it? Is the ability? Is like that's their whatever their superpower is?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's the ability and like how it motivates. Anime is really good at motivation, very good at taking someone who's low and bringing them high. And so they're very good at power scaling. All of Dragon Ball is this hero who has potential, and then over time they draw it out. And so this is why a lot of people who work on the gym, they love anime, because it's like this, I have something in me, how do I bring it out?
How do I bring it out?
And
How do I
the main
lift the weight?
characters are doubted very heavily. So like Naruto's that's my favorite anime. It's the first one I ever watched. He was underdog, doubted heavily, and then he became the king of basically of the Hokage is what it's called, but he became like the president, if that makes sense. But through his ability, and they placed this again spirit inside of him that he then would depend on for strength. So I'm like, okay, let's do that the right way. Let's depend on Christ for that power instead of the demonic ability. But same exact shonen level, because Naruto shonen, same exact kind of scaling of, I don't have that, or I have it, I just don't know about it yet. How do I, and so that was for Jericho. It was like, okay, he has something in him that he thought was actually bad, the same way Naruto and all his characters think is like terrible. So he has this ability that he's like, man, this sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's pages like he feels like he's cursed. Like it's like this mark.
Wow.
In reality, it's a call from God, which is
that's powerful, man.
Yeah. Amen.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, Elijah Williams. That's literally what we all need to understand.
Yeah.
So this book, this is the start of it. Do you have other plans for it as well?
100%.
Yeah. It could go a number of different ways. Do you see 700 episodes in your future?
I pray to God. You know what I mean? Even if I'm gone by that time, as long as it's still, you know what I mean? If it's, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I
do you know when anime started? Like, how long has it been around? Do you know?
I don't know. I know it got popular, I'd say, within the last 10 years, though.
Okay.
Like, before that, no one really, like, and if you watch anime, you're weird. Like, you're weird for sure. But I got in it, like, the Lord brought me to, like, Naruto at the perfect time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, like this is weird, but I'm gonna watch it, and I'm like, oh, this is fire. So yeah, that's it.
So tell us about the Comic-Con thing.
Yeah.
So what is Comic-Con, and how did you get into that? What were some of the rookie mistakes you made?
Yeah.
How did you even know to go to it?
Yeah. So my mentor again,
Okay.
he made his revenue from Comic-Cons.
Really?
So he would make, I mean, not to give my man's numbers away, but thousands.
Thousands, okay.
Lots of money. And so before I came to Christ, that was my whole plan.
And this was it his full-time job?
That's a full-time job.
Okay.
So that's why everything, that conversation meant so much, because I'm basically telling him how you make your money, make it a different way. It's basically what I'm saying.
Right.
So he's like, I can't do that. You
Right.
know? And so these shows he would go to, and you can, I mean, this is, like you said, hundreds of thousands of people are here who are sold out for these characters. Like they dress as them, they speak like them, they love them. These characters brought them through dark times. Like that's just what it is. Naruto, like in my depression, I in a way depended on Naruto.
And you're how old? You're like
I'm like 16. Yep.
So a lot of people are getting this connection at a very young age. So it becomes representative of not only growth in your mind and in your ability or through your darkness, but you literally grew physically during that time too. You're not the same. I'm not the same as I was when I was 16.
100%. So I'm like, yo, this like I gotta do something. You know what I mean? It gives you that, that brain.
Okay.
And that's so good. We're at these shows and these people are really like, man, Naruto brought me. I've talked to these people because I'm like, I want to know more. If I'm trying to help you, I got to know who you are, And so I'm asking these people, and they're like, yeah, man, he's brought me through some dark situations, all these characters.
Yeah.
And so I started with him. I would go to shows with him, and I'm seeing like people surrounding his booth. I'm talking 30 people, 40 people.
Yeah.
Let me get a poster here for getting 5. And these posters are $40. Like the ones in my book over here.
Yeah.
So the camera over here. This size poster, 16 by 20 is like $40, $50.
Wow.
And people are buying them. Like here, they're spending all their money because also too a lot of people like are either young or they live with their parents still. That's just that's the mentality that the enemy gets them into, and so they're spending all their checks, they're spending all their bread on all these, and so he's making a lot, and I'm like, okay, I can do that because I can draw like him now, right? That was why our beef happened, because my art looked like his, and I no longer worked for him,
right?
So at first it was cool because we helped each other out, but then it was like, okay, now
it's a natural progression,
exactly, and so I'm like, okay. I don't have a job anymore, unfortunately.
Right.
But fortunately, I do have God.
Skill.
So I got the skill He gave me. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, all right, let's put this to work. I asked God about it though, because I said to Him, I'm not drawing anime anymore.
Right.
So if I'm going to these shows, that means I got to draw anime again. And so I asked God, I'm like, like where you at? He's like, I want you to do it again. And I'm like, I'm gonna need some type of confirmation. I don't want to go nowhere.
I need triple confirmation, Lord.
I'm gonna need 30 of these. Like, you know what I'm saying? And my mom calls me within the next 15 seconds of that prayer. Wow. And she says to me, I'm on a fast right now. What can I help you with? What can I get for you? Wow. And I was like, can you get me my first month subscription to Shopify, to the tools part, and then some business cards? She said, I got it. Sent it to me. Sent it to me, get it done. After that, which funny enough, after that, I was living with my dad at the time. And right from that point, when I still was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, he got a divorce with his with my stepmom, his wife at the time, and I needed to find a place to stay, right? And so this was after college, after all this, and this is when I was staying with Joe, my uncle. Okay. I was staying with them two, my auntie and my uncle. And it's funny because he's proficient in websites. He's proficient in business, like starting up businesses, stuff like that.
Right.
Selling these products. And so I end up being like, all right, Lord, this is so funny. But I'm like, all right, God, do you want me to ask to live with them, right? And they had some scars from other people in our family that, you know what I mean? Like, like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if we want somebody else to live with us again. And I'm like, I'm scared to ask. I'm like, I don't know if I want to ask them to live with them,
Right.
But I'm like, I know it, I'm like, all right, God, if you want me to do it, I want to hear exactly 3 stomps on the floor within the next 10 seconds. I don't want footsteps. I don't want little. I want boom, boom, boom. Next 10 seconds. And I said it like kind of being silly, but I was so serious. Like, Lord, I'm not asking unless you do it.
Right.
All I heard was doom, doom, doom.
Wow.
I was like for at least 30 seconds, I'm struck, and I'm like, there's no way. That's not real. And so the next day I asked my uncle, I'm like, hey, is it cool if I stay with y'all for, and he's like, he got that like, I don't know. But of course he loves me. He gonna do it. But we go up to my auntie, and the way my auntie is, she's like, yeah, how long? She's like instantly like, that's how that side of the family is for sure. But they're like, yeah, how long? And I ended up being there for 3 years.
Wow.
And they let me make this piece of work, and they were like trusting in it, and they were like motivating me. I was unmotivated at many points in time.
Yeah.
And they kept that fuel, that fire in me. And so that was when that happened. But then I started doing shows, and the art shows. I started going to Comic-Con because I don't got money. I don't got a job.
Right.
And they're like, all right, man, you got to do something.
Right.
You're going to be in this house, you got to do something.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, let me try this MegaCon. So I went to MegaCon in Florida, which is my first show, and I ended up making around, it's like $5,000. And me being 18, I'm like, I didn't know that existed.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And so
With something you love, something you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm. And then where I had doubt.
And where you had doubt.
Yeah, because I'm like, in my questioning, am I as good as my mentor? That's what I'm thinking as I'm going to this thing. I'm like, can I
even do
because he's
what
doing $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 at these shows. He would come home and tell me like, yeah, like, don't say nothing. But he was like, we make $40,000.
Right.
Like, in 2 days?
In 2 days.
2 days, $40,000. And I'm like, all right. So I made 5, which is still great for me. I'm chilling.
5 is great for anybody.
Great for anybody.
In a day, in 2 days, in
great.
a month for most people.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so he ends up calling me, my mentor, on my way back. I'm like lit. I'm on cloud 9. I'm like excited, like, $5,000. I'm driving. I'm lying. I was 17 at the time, so I couldn't even get a hotel.
Okay.
And my dad was supposed to come with me and my brother to help me, but they couldn't.
Yeah.
So my uncle, the biggest clutch of all time, he just got back from Dubai at the time, actually.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna drive down there, sleep in the van. I'll do anything necessary. 7-hour drive in the van, like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
My dad gave me the van to drive. And my uncle, he flew from there, next day flight, flew from there to Florida to check me into the hotel.
Wow.
To get me to the thing. So I'm like, this is my guy for sure. But
and I love this. I love especially like the youth and the reliance on God, because I can even think back in my own life when I was super young, or I say super young, 16, 17, because you don't feel that young anymore when you're 16, 17. You're basically an adult.
Yeah.
But I remember that type of prayer life, that type of just like really close to God. So I think you're in a really good space. Amen. And continue that.
Yeah.
Don't lose it. Don't let the devil try to take that from you, because as you go through life and you start doing stuff and you're dealing with certain things, it's like you kind of get even afraid, or you feel like it's stupid to ask for confirmations.
Right.
100%.
Yes.
Or you feel like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to ask for 3 stumps on the floor. This is, what am I,
Yeah.
But in that, like, the innocence of, like, really believing in God.
Right.
And, like, really, like, okay, if you exist, it means I can ask you stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And I love that you did that. And I think too many adults lose that.
Yes.
But also I think too many young people don't realize the superpower that is.
Yes. 100%.
Because when you're doing that, to your point, you're still facing obstacles. You still don't know where you're going to stay at the hotel. You still don't know if you're going to be successful at MegaCon.
Yes.
You still don't know, all these things.
Yes.
But because you stepped into this flow, it's like God is working things out, and He's allowing you to.
Yes.
Doors are opening. People are flying over across the country. It happens to be your uncle to get it done.
Yes.
Now I got a hotel. I'm not even old enough. This is not even supposed to happen. But it happens for me because I'm in that flow. And I love that about your story.
Yeah.
So how much do you think, folks can make? Well, one, was your mentor at the MegaCon too?
So he was at the MegaCon in a different booth. And
he was?
So I'm sorry not to cut you off, but just to add this part in there, it's kind of important, is that he called me after and was basically like, you're going to have to change up your whole style. So he was mad. Yeah. He was mad because I made money. He saw my posters going around the situation. Yeah. And so that's where the enemy, but I'm going to tell you, God takes everything for bad. And I was terrified. I'm like, he's like, yeah, I could have got you kicked out. Like, I know these people. And I'm like, dang, like, I could have got kicked out of the show. Like, you know what I mean? Then what would have happened? I'm scared. But God turned that into me actually starting to passionally pursue this.
Wow.
'Cause I'm like, I'm not going to depend on that anymore.
Right.
But like I said, everything got me to that point, which is interesting because I also didn't have a job when I was trying to get to the Comic-Con.
Right.
So why that's interesting is because you have to buy a lot of stuff. You got to buy prints. You got to buy tablecloths. You got to buy you got gas on the way there. You got to buy the table. The table itself is $1,200.
Wow.
So you got to pay for that and have the confidence you're gonna get that back.
Right.
And I spend all this money, and I'm like saving up. I'm like, all right, what? But I'm like, all right, God, you told me to go because He told me to go. I remember telling Him, like, someone told me to sign up for MegaCon. I'm like, all right, God, like, I'm gonna sign up for this like $300 booth. He said, get the best one.
Wow.
And I was like, who got the best money? Because I know, you know
God, who got
right?
the best one?
And he said, I'm gonna show you. Sign up for the best one. I clicked the best one. I'm like, all right, $1,200. I'm like, let's do it. I then start, I get calls and commissions from all these people who are like, I love your artwork. Can you draw me something? Can you draw me something? I didn't know how you're reaching out to these people.
Wow.
They're hitting me up.
Well, yeah.
Saying, can you draw this? I got King Vader, anime people know that guy, but this popular dude, like millions of followers, who hits me up like, hey, can you draw me his blade? Can you do this? And I'm like, what? And so I'm
Doors opening.
Doors open. I'm at like that last point where I'm like, okay, I don't know if we're gonna make it over this hump. I need to get inventory. Random person sends me like $1,000.
Wow.
To get me to the exact amount that I needed
wow.
to get to where I need to go. So I say all that to say that, yeah, my mentor was there, and I knew I was supposed to go to lead up to
where you at now.
It's all perfectly aligned. But yeah, continue.
Okay, so let's dig into the book a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you've got the book. How long did it take to create? You said you got the character 4-something years ago, but then to actually and you go through this, and I don't know if we can show the people this, but like this is partially what the book looks like. So it has a, what do you call it? What we used to see when we were young. I can't think of it.
It's good.
Comic books.
Yes.
Comic, like that's the style.
Yep, that's what manga is, like a Japanese comic book.
Japanese, okay, comic book, perfect. So, how long does it take to? So every picture in here you had to draw?
Hand drawn, each one hand drawn.
Are you kidding me?
Hand drawn, and that's only 100. There's people who make 300-page books. That's what the plan is for the next one. Y'all don't hold me to nothing, but we gonna see what God do.
Yeah.
But I want to make it more pages the next one. But yeah, that's all.
This is amazing.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
This is crazy amazing. And so you're doing it hand drawn, and then do you end up putting it in the computer at some point?
Yes.
So you have to like scan it, or what is?
Yeah. So basically, it's that part has been in the making for a year. I say this last year. I was with my auntie and uncle living with them, and I've been talking about doing a manga for a while, and I've been making videos about it. My uncle's like, all right, you're gonna have to stamp down on where you stand with it. You know what I mean? Because I'm a concept person. I like the idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's like, all right, we gotta implement the idea now, right? And so he's like, you're gonna have to, because I would make plot lines and then switch up the plot lines. You know what I mean? All these things, so nothing felt right, you know? And so eventually he was like, yeah, you gotta like make one, stick to one, And I was like, all right. And I finally got to the one where I was like, this is the plot line. Mm-hmm. I remember I prayed to God, and I was like, none of these plot lines felt right, because I was trying to do it for like fun. Like, oh, how does this look? This sounds cool. God says, you can only teach what you yourself have lived. And I was like, what have I lived? And I sat down, and I just kind of contemplated. I've always battled spirit and flesh. I've always battled that lust, that like, how can I beat myself to overcome? And so that's what I made this book about, was spirit over flesh. And I kind of created the characters in that way. And to the point where my uncle helped me come up with the outline of, from January to wherever, this is when you should be done. And so every week you would have check-ins of, did you finish your 10 pages? Did you finish your 10 pages? And I'm like,
to help hold you accountable.
To help hold me accountable.
Wow.
Yeah. So you need accountability 100%. And I remember like not hitting those marks sometimes. Just would, it's realistic.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from that. And we can touch on that later. But I would definitely say that this one took a year. And now we're at a point where it's like, I'm happy with it. But it goes from sketchbook thumbnails, little pictures that you can't even really recognize, to writing the script, to before that, characters, storyline, plotline, understanding setting. Like I had to read a bunch of books to really get my mind into. You're building a whole world.
You're building a world.
You're essentially like trying to like play God for a second. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it's like these characters, they don't start when you see them on the page. They started when their parents conceived them. So you're having to go all the way back to these fake people that don't exist. Yeah. To the story, to the clothes they wear, to the, and
that's amazing.
And you really indulge in that. And that started on paper, to then scanning it into digital, to then inking the whole thing.
I love this because, if you believe in God, if you believe in the Creator, if you believe in the Bible.
Yeah.
I used to tell my nieces this when they were young. I said, everything is created or consumed. Everything is created or consumed. And I'd make them repeat it after me. And then at the last part, I'd say, spend more of your time creating than consuming. Because you're being more like your Creator, more like God. And it's like the things you've learned, the things you've had to deal with. And when we're dealing with entrepreneurs on this show, which you are that plus some, because you're building the business, but you're also a creative because you're having to, and luckily that you've got not luckily, you're blessed and God is favoring you to put people around you to help accelerate the growth. And I just think that's awesome. And so I hope everyone listening understands that you should spend your time creating, because it's going to push things out of you.
Yes.
It's going to build those muscles in you. And now, like, you've literally created an entire world. It's a book right now, but this is just a portion
it's just a start.
of the world. That's really cool. The other question I wanted to ask you, have you faced criticism for mixing the Christianity and the anime together?
Yeah, 100%. There's definitely been a lot of comments of like, "Hey, you can't do that." You know what I mean? Like a lot of comments of
who's been more aggressive with it? The
support. 100%. Like I definitely say like support has been like
better. Then but is it like, who's telling you can't do it? The anime people or Christian people?
Christians, 100%.
Christians
are the ones saying like, "Hey, don't you're misusing the power of God," or like whatever. They have their own a lot of different ideas of how it should be done.
Right.
But a lot of times I see my old stage of life through them, which is basically at any cost not to live into that identity of Christ.
Right.
He says, "Let us make man in our image and after our likeness."
Right.
Meaning Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Creation is something he called us to do. The first command he ever gave man was to be fruitful and multiply, have dominion over the earth and subdue it.
Yep.
Dominion means to dominate. You're supposed to, and also what he told us to multiply.
Right.
He gave him a garden. He gave him something to create, to, you know what I mean? And to build. And so it's like taking that, what's inside of me, and I'm meant to create.
Right.
I'm meant to take, not misuse, not skew, not for my own good, not for my own will, but to take his principles and to implement them into like things that other people will feed from,
Absolutely. And it's funny. I listened to Pastor Dr. Darius Daniels a lot, and he was talking about a number of things. He's been doing this whole teaching for over a year. That's amazing. But one of the things he really touches on is like influence. And it's like sometimes church people who have a limited view or whatever think that like only people that are in culture are supposed to have influence.
Or success,
Right, or success. It's like, no. It's like, I'm actually more set up to have influence. And you look at Jesus, he had influence. So if I'm going to live like Jesus, I'm going to have influence. And so if this is a space that can be influenced,
it's influence.
I may be the one called to do that. That may be my mission to go out there and use my gifts, use my talents to influence, but I know how that can be. So kudos to you for pushing through that. And has it ever discouraged you as you're trying to figure out how to respond to the criticism?
At first it definitely got to me because I'm always one to make sure that I'm on that walk, that I'm following God, that I'm
in His will.
Right, exactly. And so at first it was definitely a whole lot of like, dang, am I doing what I need to be doing type of thing. And I had to face that for myself for sure. But eventually I got to a point where I was like, all right, like, God, I know that you are God enough to correct me. I know that you are God enough to make sure that I don't walk off the wrong path. There's so many verses. Men may throw the dice, but the Lord determines how they fall. I will guide the steps of the righteous. All these things. So I'm like, I don't have a worry in the doubt. If I do it with faith, I'm doing it correctly.
Boom.
That's it. And so I know that if I was doing it in faith, I'm going to keep going. So it discouraged me a little bit until I had to remember once again, like, they weren't there for the 3 stomps. They weren't there when I couldn't pay my tuition. They weren't there.
Yeah.
All they have is window service. Hey, that doesn't look like it's the right size. Walk away.
Right.
They're not in the shirt.
Exactly.
So it's like,
No, that's really good, because my youth pastor growing up, which happens to be my brother, used to tell me when I was like, how do you hear God? How do you? And I was amazed at his answer, because there is a scripture that says, my sheep know my voice, and the strangers they will not follow. And so when he gave me that as one of the ways to hear, it's like, I even have to have faith in hearing that I'm hearing, right? And it's like, and so knowing the path that you're on, because when you really start to dive into God, and it really, yes, you need to be influencing others. We need to be witnessing and helping, and but a lot of what we're learning is based on that personal relationship, and that can get people can take that too far, right?
100%.
There is some accountability to the brothers, and there is some sort of when you look at scripture, people can judge what you do if you call yourself a Christian.
100%.
But it's you got to be careful not to go the other way, where it's like, to your point, somebody's trying to tell you what God's called you to do and how to do it. It's
100%.
just that is not biblical and not aligned with scripture. So I'm glad that you're responding in that way, and I encourage you to continue to do that.
Thanks, sir.
Who would be the person you would love to collaborate with in the Manga world?
That's a great question. There is an artist that has actually been also mentoring me that I don't know in what way, but his name is Coterie Inc. And I've been following his art for a while now. He's a big help to this book in general. I don't know in what way, but I definitely want to collaborate with him and just making something. I know his artwork is beautiful. So that, and then definitely animators. I don't have a specific one in mind. There's one named Rocket Boy Art who I love, but he animates, and I definitely want to be around some people who get this. Like, I want to see Jericho move. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see him like put his arm up or something. Like that's the next for my brain. That's like for the animation piece of 100%.
It. No, that's dope. That's dope, and I see that for you for sure because you've already taken those steps, right? And so that naturally seems next. So I've got a question here, which I didn't know, but the team helped me come up with this. But I guess you did mention it. How did creating Jericho help you process your parents' divorce? Okay. And what coping advice do you give artists that may be in similar situations?
I would definitely say that Jericho became this physical representation of what I was capable of. So I started to see Jericho do. I mean, the picture get behind you again is like the same way that a kid looks at Spider-Man and thinks he can climb up the wall. Is the same way I should see Christ and his example of my life, that I can do all things through Christ. He even said, greater things than this shall you do. That's Jesus himself saying that to me. And so I would say that this definitely helped me fully walk into my identity, kind of knowing that I am a child of the Most High. You know what I mean? And that is exactly what I am. I actually read it in Psalms, I think 77 yesterday. I might be wrong on that. But he says that you are God's lowercase g. God's, and that you are children of the Most High. That comes with the dominion and a price. And so when you go through those situations, you definitely start to kind of lose who you are, in divorces and stuff like that. And you kind of like start to see life as it's not going the right way.
Right.
That's impossible. That's the mindset. It's impossible. There's no way. He told me, right? I don't know what the enemy said, but he told me that all things will work for my good.
Right.
All things for those who love him. So if I pursue him and I continuously walk in that path that he's called me to, he said, he's like, how much more for my children if they would, follow me, And so it's like, all those situations, they happen, life happens, things happen, but God is consistent, never failed. So that's kind of that advice is like, step into that identity and don't forget it. I think in every sin and every addiction and every shame and every bondage, the root of it is identity, 100%. Not knowing who you are. Because the same way you can't tell a police officer to arrest himself or like to be arrested. Like, I arrest you. They're like, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's in the same way we have divine authority over the enemy. He said that after he died on Calvary, we then became like, we walked in, we're over them now. Right. So when the enemy comes to you and says, hey, you're depressed, no, I'm not. In the name of Jesus, I'm not. Like, by his blood, by his stripes, I'm healed. That's what he told me. I don't listen to you anymore. You're like a kid. You know what I mean? And so it's that walking in identity, I think.
That's good. That's really good. And I can tell you've been in your scripture.
Trying.
That's good because you need a way to respond. You need to say something. When you look at Jesus in the wilderness and the enemy saying all this stuff to him, he's ready to respond. And I could see how prepping yourself, building through that, even if it's in retrospect, even if it's in the past, gives you that ability to say, you know what, I can deal with a divorce or a bad situation or this. It don't have to define me. And I can, still reach my destiny, all that sort of thing. Life may not feel like it's going right. But when I tap back into who I am, which we find in Scripture. That's beautiful.
Test to a testimony, mess to a message.
Test to a testimony, mess to a message. Beautiful. So where do you think faith-based manga fits into this manga market that's growing, and seemingly is $1 billion, will probably grow to more? Do you find anybody else that's actually doing Christian-like manga?
So I definitely, the Lord has given me direct direction as far as how he would like me to operate this far in this, in this space. And I do feel as though I am one of the first, not that I am the best, but I am one of the first. And that is for a reason, not because of who I am, but because of who he is. But I will say that I've seen other people kind of like, tiptoeing it. And I will say that I think that there will be more. Now I've seen it. Like when I first started, I didn't see any.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing like people messaging me saying I'm starting one. I'm starting this.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing because I know I didn't start it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my goal, at least, God willing, is that the same way there is platforms, Shonen is encompassing Naruto, Dragon Ball, Black Clover, all these animes. They have thousands of them. I want to do the same thing for Christ content. So the same way they got an app, they got all the, I want to have a Jericho app. I want to have, or not even Jericho, but Ink for Saints, whatever we call it. It can be, my name don't got to be on it at all. I just want this platform that people can depend, the same way of like Christian music and secular music, right? There's so many Christian artists, Caleb Gordon, Alex Jean, and they're creating this platform where you don't have to listen to secular music anymore. It's the same thing I do for anime. Yeah. You don't have to watch these anymore. Yes, they're good. They're good things to consume it with the right mindset.
With the right mindset.
But it's definitely necessary to also like why not make a kid feel like he can pray a demon away? Why not make a kid feel like he doesn't have to go through depression? Like those things, they'll motivate you, but I want to arm you. Like, you know what I mean? I want to give you, it's like people getting robbed and they don't realize they got a gun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got a gun.
You got a gun against the enemy.
Yeah.
And so it's like keeping that Bible around you. I want to make people depend on that. And so that's kind of my,
that's good.
That's the vision, I'd say.
That's godly.
Amen.
That's all that is powerful.
Amen.
You on the right path. You on the right path, Elijah, and I love it. I can tell that you you don't want to be too self-serving. You don't want to do the will of God, but because you want that so much, you're going to get there.
Amen.
And I'm proud of you, and I'm just meeting you, but I'm proud of you. What would you say? Is there any underrated drills or resources that dramatically improve your anime and motion lines?
In motion, like meaning like artwork wise?
Yeah, artwork wise.
I would say master studies is criminally underrated. Master studies is if you don't have a mentor or someone that you can like look for to teach you how to draw, find art that you love and literally make it line for line. So if I drew that picture over there and you love the way my art looks, draw that exact same picture the exact same way and do that with every other artist that you like, you'll start to, the same way you watch Michael Jordan or Anthony Edwards, whatever, and you're watching them do a dribble move, when you practice, hit that same exact dribble move over and over and over until it becomes a part of your game, then you can play with it. You gotta learn everything around it so you can break it. Wow. So you study other people, watch it. Don't replicate and sell their art. That's different. But, replicate it exactly, keep it in your memory book, whatever, and you're going to start to emulate that style and start to be able to... My style comes from, 10 different styles, So that's...
Mixed together.
Exactly.
Show us some of your work. Where was your other book at so we can see some of your work?
It's kind of large. Let's see if I can do this right here. Let's see. Okay, that might work. Okay. So this is all the art that I've been selling at like Comic-Cons and stuff. Used to. I've been focused on the book now. But when I did go to shows and stuff like that, I would sell these and these people would be able to flip through these books. And you see like Dragon Ball. This is Goku and Vegeta. Some more Goku, Vegeta.
And so how did you literally created these?
Literally created all digital art. And I would start on paper at first.
Yeah.
And then kind of move into... doing on my tablet, color, draw, and stuff like that.
So how much time do these take?
So at first, like if you take these old drawings, so like the one before that I just showed before this one, it would take me like a week maybe. Yeah. But the more you do it, the consistent you do it, I can do this in a day now. Okay. So like this would take me, a day, like that's like 5, 6 a.m. to 12 at night, but a day nonetheless. Yeah. But yeah, and now it's like I get the ideas faster. I know how to find the reference that I need. I know how to, you know what I mean? That type of thing. So also, too, not being afraid of relying on reference is another tip I'd give artists, which is people want to do everything with their brain. But if you don't know how something looks, how will you ever draw it? Right. So you study it, watch it, and then you'll be able to, really do these things. But
that's awesome. How can people find your work and buy some of your prints?
Yeah. So everything is on inkforsaints.com. That's my general website.
Inkforsaints.com.
Inkforsaints.com. .com. and there's Prince on there. Mostly it's the book, but Prince and things like Jericho, Prince as well, and stuff like that. But there's a back category for these. You know, I don't really sell them as much anymore, but they're on there.
They're on there as well.
If you're looking for them.
And folks who know anime will know some of these characters, faces, all that. Yeah.
I draw the most popular ones because I don't watch like there's a broad range of anime.
Yeah.
I kind of stay in the shonen category for sure.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, that's the.
No, that's awesome. So is anyone else a drawer in the family?
My uncle Tarek he drew a lot. But it's funny, we're always often compared growing up and stuff like that. So, but he doesn't anymore. He went to the military and stuff.
Okay.
But other than that, there's no one else that really.
You got it.
And that's I definitely feel like that God ordained type of situation.
Oh,
like not that you know what I mean. Talent, yes, I believe in it, but I mean direction is like
God gives the increase.
You got the purpose.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, you enter into that, and it's like. Everything else, like, you know,
starts to open up 100%. And flow.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. It's been wonderful getting to know you. What is it like being around Elijah? Are you so focused on this where you feel like you've become a little weird or like it's hard to be around? Because I'm like, I want to watch anime. I don't want to do what y'all doing.
Yeah. No, I'd say that anime, with the right people around you, you know, it's like it's cool, you know. It's definitely like it has some cringy things in there.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, depending on where you're raised, growing up, you're like, it's weird. You know, you can shrug it off, but sometimes you can, you know. So I wouldn't say I think I'm pretty decent to be around. You know,
yeah.
I haven't gone too far yet.
Are you at your age? Is there anything you're not doing because you're focused on this that you feel like you might be sacrificing right now? And the reason I ask you this is because I firmly believe that there is a sacrifice to certain choices, certain destinies, certain things like that. And you've got to, sometimes, I can't be around that or I can't do that. And while it could be a blessing in some views, some people might see it as a sacrifice, but it could also give them a lens into something. Maybe if I put that down, maybe if I get away from that, I can get to this dream that that's being delayed. Yeah,
100%. I would say sacrifices, of course, you know, the cost of following Christ is like the biggest, I'd say, sacrifice in the best way. You'll learn it. But I would say that I don't, like, I hang out with friends sometimes, but I don't go out. Like, I mean, and some people may say it's your sacrifice.
And a lot of people your age are going out right now.
Often. You know what I mean? And I don't hang out in those crowds. I may obviously go out, you know, play some pool or something, like my friends or something, or, you know, go to movies. But as far as, like, I've been to a club in Charlotte, and I've been here for like 2 years, and I don't go to any of those areas. I'm at home most of the time. I go to the gym, you know, and that's where actually I probably wouldn't have any friends if I didn't work where I work, because I work part-time at Lifetime Gym.
Okay.
And because of that, I've met all my friend groups are from church and from the gym. Okay. So 2 healthy places, you'll find the 2 healthy relationships at the end of the day.
Say that again. If you choose healthy places, you will have healthy relationships at the end of the day.
Yep.
So that's really good. So now you got healthy people that care about how they eat, how they look, how, you know, their health.
Constant motivation.
And then people that care about their spiritual health, their mind, their character, their moral compass, you know.
Yes. And even financials, I say, is one I'm looking for. Like, where I'm like, okay, I need to find some people that will help me when it comes to organizing finances. And in every area of your life, I think you need stewardship and mentorship and discipleship and being able to learn from that. But
you've learned that in real life. You've seen that it can make, you know, you can go further, faster. And if you pick that up now, you know, at still a young age, in your early 20s, you can accelerate so fast. I even have told the team, especially when we even had more younger people working here, that, you know, you have no idea if you do the right things with your money now, how you're going to look up and be like, oh, I don't even know how I got here, but I just did the right things. I just followed that mentorship, and now I'm in a good place. What would you tell younger Elijah about where you're at now, as from, you know, in retrospect?
I would say to him, like, don't shy away from your passions because of other people. I definitely think that in my environment, also don't let your environment determine your purpose, you know, where I'd be around a lot of people who would see me as weird because I created. That's all I did when I was younger. I created movies. I would go around the neighborhood knock on people's door, random kids. I'd be like, hey, you want to be in this Nerf video that I'm making? I'd give them guns and like, I make a whole script. I make my brother act in it, do all these things. But people see me as weird, because I'm creating stop Lego action movie films, and I've been doing that since a kid.
Yeah,
drawing since a kid, and little things in here and there. But people always thought I was, different, which I was. And oftentimes we let that thing, we let what they say determine who we are. In reality, it was what God placed in me that had to come out, and I have a choice. So I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be. And so to that younger self, I would just say, keep doing it. You know what I mean? Like, don't let that. Usually, I feel like you know what you're made for when you're a kid. Like, your kid self understands. You just, when you get older, you start to try to become someone that you're not.
Right.
And I hid in that chameleon skin in high school because I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't do none of that. You know what I mean? But that's always been me. You know what I mean? I've loved it. And so I think coming to Christ helped me really be like, I don't care what y'all say. Like, I love anime. I'll tell anybody about God, anime, anything. I don't care who it is, what room I'm in. And you learn that when you're older, people love you for it more, which is interesting about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's because difference makers, my mentor would always say this, difference makers are different.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
If you're going to make a difference, you got to be different.
Yeah. Yeah. So my favorite thing is, what they say, it's like, if you're going to lead the orchestra, your back has to be turned to the crowd, right? So it's like, if you're going to do something great, like, you got to be turned around towards everybody else. It's just what it's got to be. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Elijah.
Thank
More
you,
blessings to you. Again, folks can get the book. This is amazing. Is the book available right now? Ink for Saints?
Right now on my website.
Ink for Saints. You can get the book right now. It is available. Man, I am... let me just read one. Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. Proverbs 22 and 29 on the back of the book here. The Book of Jericho. I love it, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
this is awesome. Great work.
Yes, sir.
Y'all, I hope y'all learn from this episode. Elijah, tell the people, look in that camera, tell the people how to find you, how to follow you, and how they can, I don't know, next thing you're going to be at and doing. Yeah.
So first off, 10% off using code StephenMotivate. Add that in there.
Thank you.
But I would say that continue doing with your artwork, continue working on that passion, push continuously, not letting anybody distract you. This book will be an exploration of that in the future as well. We'll just be giving superpowers to us who realize that who we are, walking that identity. Everything on every social media platform is Ink for Saints, website inkforsaints.com. We're going to continue on, God willing, Volume 2. Future, definitely want to get this turned into an anime. So, there'll be opportunities for you guys to get involved in that way through Patreon. And I'm actually starting up a class where I'm going to teach people how to draw comics and stuff like that. So if that's something you're interested in, sign up, or you can follow me on Instagram or anything like that, and I'll be posting about it. So that's where you can find me at.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elijah, again. As always, y'all, stay motivated. Until next time, it's your boy, StephenMotivate. Thanks, Elijah Williams. The Book of Jericho, out now. Peace.